Getting into scuba diving is pretty easy, and you can get qualified all around the world, anywhere that there's a dive centre and, deepish water, but there is of course a test that you have to pass first. Now, to put you at ease, the test is designed so that 10-year-olds can pass it, so don't stress out too much about it, but there are some tips that can help you pass your test and become a better diver faster. The course itself is split into 4 different parts: homework, the classroom work, pool work, and some open water dives. So you've got some book reading to do at home so that you can get to grips with the theory. You're then tested on that in the classroom to make sure that you understand what's going on. You then practice fundamental skills in the swimming pool, and then you repeat those skills in an open water setting. Now, I'm obviously not going to give you the answer key to the open water test, but there are a few helpful tips and tricks that can help you complete your open water. Here is how to pass your open water. Your bookwork should take some time to read and take it all in, so try and pick up your pack a few weeks before you start your classroom sessions, because there are some things that you really just can't work out on the day. The tests are multiple choice, but some of them you just can't guess, and your instructor will be asking you all questions to make sure that you all understand the subjects. So spend some time with the materials and go through them at your own pace. If you don't understand something, that's okay. Just take a note and ask your instructor to go through it with you during your classroom session. The books are also interactive, and some even come with a DVD to watch alongside. If you can, then opt for the DVD option, because it's set out in the exact same order as the textbook, so you can watch it and re-watch it, ready for your knowledge reviews, and a video can just explain a concept better than a still picture or a paragraph of text in a book. If you don't understand a part, then just keep on going with the next chapter, because by the end, you may better understand what the original problem was. Don't just give up or obsess over one part that you just can't get your head around. But this all takes time, and it's a fairly chunky textbook that you need to get through, so don't leave it to the very last minute to try and complete it. So get it done early so you can go back to any elements that you didn't fully understand, and if you still don't get it, then that's what your instructor's for, to go with it with you afterwards. And listen properly. If I tell you to reach over your left-hand shoulder, then don't mirror me with your right hand. Everyone does it, but just take a moment to practice the skills on the surface and don't rush through them. Kind of visualize in your head what you're supposed to do to make your life easier later on. Everything in scuba diving is done slowly and methodically. If your instructor is telling you something, then there's probably a reason for it. Trust them and do as you're told, because it's probably much easier doing it their way. Practice it on the surface first and ask your instructor to watch, and then they'll tell you if you're doing something wrong. And don't rush through your skills neither. If you're doing your skills all rushed and haphazard, we're actually taught to make you do it again until you're fully competent in the skill, so you might as well do it right the first time. You also need to pay attention. Scuba diving is incredibly distracting. Everywhere you look, there is going to be something to distract you, but whilst you're gazing off into the distance, your instructor is probably desperately trying to get your attention because you're drifting off too deep or something. Underwater, we use hand signals to talk, so look at these and try and think about them slowly. It isn't a race when we're talking underwater, and there isn't a universal hand signal for everything, so just try and be as obvious as you can with your hands. Part of every pool dive is dedicated to practicing your skills that you've just learnt, but most students will just want to crack on with the rest of the course. Take your time to practice your buoyancy in the swimming pool and get used to the delay and the cycle of breathing. You float up when you inhale and you sink after you exhale. It's a natural cycle that takes a little while to get used to, and too many new divers just rely on their inflate and deflate buttons to descend and ascend, which just waste gas, it's dangerous, and it can get you hurt. Only use your inflator on the surface and for minor adjustments underwater, not all the time. When you hit open water, take a moment to consider your buoyancy at all times. Everything should be controlled so you can go up or down when you choose to. Just don't dump every little bit of gas out of your BCD, just a little. See if you sink a little bit more, and if a bit more until you do. before you actually get to your desired depth, just inhale and see if you can hover. If you keep going down, then add a tiny bit of gas to your BCD. You don't want to thud into the bottom, you don't really want to touch the bottom at all. Your instructor knows a lot about scuba diving. They focused a lot of their professional career on scuba diving and the equipment as well, but while they can't actually cover everything in the course, if you ask them about something specifically like wetsuits or dry suits, then they will be more than happy enough to explain it. If you don't understand something but the rest of the group seem to be nodding their heads, then just stop and ask. It could be important and the rest of the group may not fully understand neither. A good instructor will be able to explain what you don't understand in a slightly different light until you get it. In the classroom and the swimming pool, you can pop up and chat with your instructor almost whenever you like, but once you actually hit open water, once you get down to a certain depth, you actually have to stay there, so get any questions that you might have out there before you kit up. Your instructor will go through the entire dive and all the step-by-steps and what you're going to cover in what order, so take it all in and then visualize it before the dive. Don't go worrying yourself into a muddle, but think of anything that you might be unsure about, because it isn't going to be easy to explain that concept 10 meters down. Okay, so time for some quickfire tips. So 1, buy your own mask. School masks suck, and some schools actually use rubbish masks as kind of an incentive to sell you a brand new one. So take your time and invest in a good mask that fits you properly. Not just the one that looks cool, but the one that actually fits you properly. And remember to prepare it about 3 times before your course so it doesn't fog up. Splash water onto your face when you first get in. Splash a little bit of water onto your face to get used to it and the temperature as well. You don't want the first time that you experience how cold the water or the water itself is being around your faces at 7 meters. It also helps to reduce your mask from fogging up too. Practice your breathing. It sounds kind of stupid, but we call it airway control, and you'll use it in a few different skills, but a lot of people actually find it quite hard to control whether you exhale out of your mouth or out of your nose. Basically, if air is coming out of your nose, then water can't go up it. And in diving, you need to be able to control where your air actually comes out of for certain skills. So practice breathing in through your mouth and out through your nose. Equalize often. If you're going down, then equalize. If in doubt, just equalize your ears. Even if you haven't changed your depth, just equalize your ears. You can never over equalize your ears. And there is no situation in which you don't need to equalize your ears, but never force it. It's not a thing where the harder you do it, the better you equalize. It's just a casual things. Just do it really nice and gently, and your ears will thank you later. Pee before pool sessions. You will need to pee a lot during a pool session. You'll be surprised, and probably multiple times as well. You think I'm joking, but diving in a swimming pool will make your body need to pee often, so you have to get out. You become an expert in equipment removal, but you do interrupt the course every 30 minutes or so. Bring an old t-shirt or a rash vest, because school BCDs are made to be tough because they're used frequently, but comfort isn't really high on their features list, so wearing them against bare skin sucks. An old t-shirt that you don't mind sort of chlorine or saltwater damage should help your shoulders from rubbing if the pool is warm enough that you don't need a wetsuit. Don't leave your cylinder standing up. It'll cost you a beer and you can damage some really expensive equipment or your foot if it falls over. If you're not touching it, just lay it on the floor, so the worst it can do is just kind of roll around a little bit. Put your regulator in the right way. There is a right and a wrong way to put the regulator in, and if you get it wrong, you'll just get a mouthful of water. The bulky bit is always at the lowest and the mouthpiece is always at the highest. So yeah, just make sure you get it in the right way round, and always exhale first when you put it in. Stay organized. Run through your entire day and pack everything that you might need, and pack it in the order that you're going to need it. So that way you don't basically want to be unpacking your entire kit, leaving it all over the place because you put your logbook in first, because stuff just gets lost and it just gets in the way. Wash and dry your stuff. Your course takes place over multiple days and you'll probably be wearing the same suit throughout. Imagine putting on a cold, damp, skin-tight suit and compare that to a nice fresh one that's been hung up properly and dried. You decide. Opt out if something feels wrong. Nobody is forcing you to do anything, and there is no shame in saying, can I just skip this dive? We actually prefer this, and one of my very proudest moments was when a kid actually told me that he didn't want to do this dive, even though his mum had been pressuring him to do it. Never ever call this a flipper. I don't know why, but we're really passionate about this. These are fins, a flipper is something very different. Okay guys, there were a few tips and tricks that should help you pass your open water, and I'm sure that the community has put some of their own tips and recommendations down in the comments below. As ever, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you down below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe, because we do all sorts of scuba diving videos about equipment, so you know what to look for. Thanks for watching, and safe diving. Scuba diving has been around for a few generations now, and we've found our groove through a lot of trial and error and many dives. So everything from equipment to routines and practices have been rigorously tried and tested and polished to what scuba divers do and love today. But as with many things in life, when the next generation comes along and stands on